Welcome on in, everybody, here to the Postgame Pod at Auburn Undercover. Nathan King joined here by Patrick Bingham inside of Coleman Coliseum, late here on Saturday night. I think it's pouring rain outside. I'm told that. We haven't known that for hours because we've been in a...
Yeah, I walked outside like probably an hour before tip-off because I wanted to get a shot of like the exterior of the building, and it was the part like right before it starts raining where the like wind is like going all around, and I was like, oh, one of those.
Well, it was also a blustery day for Auburn's defense as well. A 96-84 defeat here to end the regular season against Alabama. Number 16 Alabama, they fall. Alabama completes the series sweep. Obviously, the Crimson Tide have now won 3 straight games in the series, going back to last year's result that was also on the end of the regular season. Yeah. That one in Auburn. Patrick, this one starts on defense for the Tigers. I mean, there were moments in this game where Auburn got back into it in the second half. I say back into it. They got it down to 12 at one point, kind of late in the game, down to 16. That sounds a little silly to say, but Alabama really was cracking this game wide open, and it felt like maybe a 30 or a 40-point win was coming. But all of that stemmed from the fact that Auburn's defense was on its heels right away. I mean, they looked like they had no answers. Alabama just worked its way into the paint. LeBaron Philon, for the second basket of the game, quite literally walked to the basket because Keyshawn Hall and Todd Pettiford miscommunicated on a switch. That story of the season, basically. And LeBaron Philon came away laughing because he had a easy layup at the beginning of a very crucial SEC basketball game. And that's not a good sign. And it ended up being that way for the entirety of the night. Him and Aiden Holloway, the former Auburn guys, of course, one of them a commitment, one of them a transfer, had 21 points apiece. But the standout stat in this one, Patrick, 58 points in the paint for Alabama. It didn't really matter who was doing it. Didn't really matter who was driving in there. Didn't matter if it was a guard. Didn't matter if it was a big guy. Didn't matter if it was in transition. Auburn just could not stop Alabama getting to the basket tonight.
Yeah, I got a text at one point, and it was like they had 42 points in the paint, and Auburn had 44 points in the game. Yep. And it was, we had talked even just on the drive up here of like, I don't know how they're going to be able to limit Philon. And from the first like snap of the game, from the tip-off, it was just very clear that he was going to have his night. Yep. There were a lot of those laughing moments that you talked about. But, yeah, again, it was just like, even when Auburn would, like earlier in the game when it was like a 10-point deficit pretty early and they would get it to 7 and then would go back to 12. Like, they just could never get consistent stops against Alabama without, like, fouling and then missing free throw shots, which did happen a couple times. But if that's your best option, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, it ends up being only a 12-point defeat, but this never felt competitive.
No. I was kind of surprised when I looked up in the second half. I was like, oh, it's like at 15. Because, we got to 28, I think, was the biggest Alabama lead. And it just, honestly, from the beginning was over. Which is, there was just no doubt. And, props to them for not quitting after everything they've been through the last month in this environment to not just completely fold. Sure. But at the same time, that's never a result you want to see against anyone, much less your arch rival. Yeah,
the biggest helper there down the stretch, Kevin Overton scores 22 of his 24 in the second half. I had a stat about it after the game. Todd Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall end up having I think they combined for 11 field goals made in this game, but they only had 5 baskets until 4:50 were remaining. So it's like you just didn't have – I think Auburn's offense they scored 53 points in the second half, ended up kind of getting it together, but you were not on the right page until it was kind of too late.
Like, that's the thing is I think if you did not watch the game and just check the box score, you'd be like, oh, okay. Like, they scored 80-something points. A lot of the usual suspects scored. But that was the thing is just like watching the game. So much of it like happened late, and it kind of skewed a lot of those big stats. I think the quote of the night, at least for me, was, I forget which one of the head coaches said it, but it was like, I think it was Steven. He was like, they beat us at our own game. It was Auburn was so like persistent with, we're not going to let them shoot a bunch of threes, and they guarded the line, and Alabama just kept driving. Yeah. And the 50-something points in the paint tells the story.
Yeah, you obviously, Auburn's defense has a lot of problems. Alabama's also one of the best offenses in the country. You kind of pick your poison. Auburn, to your point, Auburn did a good job defending the three-point line. Alabama shoots 7 of 27 from deep. That is their lowest three-point percentage in an SEC win in more than 2 years. So
that sounds right.
And Steven said it after the game. He was like, I bet if you looked, and when Alabama shoots what is that, 26% from deep and 65% the foul line. Like you mentioned, they missed some free throws. He was like, I'm willing to bet when they do that, they don't win a lot of games. He's right. It's just not a winning formula. But when you just let them get to the paint over and over again, that was obviously the story of this one. And Alabama felt in control all night. Stephen Pearl said after the game, and I mean, I don't really know what to make of this. I don't know, agree or disagree. It probably doesn't matter. That he didn't think the effort was lacking. And to add on to that, we were looking at a stat of all the bubble teams that lost today. It's something like
parentheses, all of them.
The last 4 and the first 5 in and whatever, and Joe Lunardi's thing, like all 9 of them lost. Yeah. And it kind of, you can't, all 9 of those teams didn't not care about going to the NCAA tournament. They weren't all like, well, they don't care about being here. Yeah, I think that's probably sort of an overblown point at this point in the season. It's kind of an overblown talking point. I think more so this was just kind of the perfect situation to take advantage of an Auburn defense like this. Like, we knew this had the potential of happening, especially in this building. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we say in this building, Alabama scored 96 points when they played them in Neville Arena as well. And so Auburn will now try to flush this one as fast as possible and move on to what they hope can be an opportunity in Nashville. And that's where we'll kind of move this conversation. They will play Mississippi State on Wednesday in Nashville at the SEC tournament. That'll be at approximately 2 o'clock Central Time. Yeah. It'll be the second game of the entire SEC tournament. You'll play Josh Hubbard again, who's probably licking his chops after he went for 46. He's been pretty bad since that game, though.
Yeah, which Steven said, I think in one of the availabilities, he was like, I saw that in I think it was like the game after he had 6 points or something.
It was like game.
I literally almost threw up.
Yeah, he's not been very good. Mississippi State lost 5 straight games to close out the regular season. So Auburn will really be looking for. I mean, that's a game you don't want to play Josh Hubbard again, but at the same time, if there was ever a game that this team is motivated to go out there and get one back, it'd be them or Ole Miss. You and I were talking about it earlier. Like, one of the Mississippis is the one you would want to see. And then the winner of that game will play Tennessee, who's the number 5 seed. That is a no-doubt quad 1 game. And now the conversation begins. And Stephen Pearl made his case. I would encourage people to go to our YouTube channel and watch his comments. He said, they're 2-2 against, and he named off 4 different conference champions. Obviously, the 2 wins there being Florida SEC champion, St. John's Big East champion. Mm-hmm. Stephen said, he said, look, we have enough quality wins to be deserving of a spot in the tournament. And that's what Auburn is going to continue to latch onto, the wins. But as we know in sports, Patrick, there are also losses, and Auburn obviously racked them up this season, really over the better part of the last month, finishing 7-11 in league play.
It's a gas station.
Now, Patrick, we will be. It all kind of comes down to the SEC tournament. We won't really know how much it matters. We tell people over and over again the SEC tournament doesn't really matter. This could be a very rare instance because the bubble margins are so razor thin right now.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about this also driving up here, not to share our entire conversation, but I mean, it was. I think so much of it, yes, you cannot lose to Mississippi State, of course, right? You need to take care of business, but I think a lot of it is going to depend on what other teams do. I think more specifically, of course, the classic case of you don't need I know there's been a bunch of the Miami, Ohio drama with Bruce Pearl, but you don't need Miami, Ohio to lose, so there's another conference champion that takes a bubble spot that wouldn't already get it. And so that's true for a lot of the smaller conferences. I think we're going to be doing a lot of watching some other teams, but of course that all begins with Auburn has to take care of business on Wednesday.
And it may not matter.
Of course, yes.
We just don't know.
Yeah.
It's worth monitoring because you're maybe keeping that conversation alive. But we have no idea. The committee could be out on this team. They could be of course. That's way too many losses. We don't care how many quality wins you have. You've lost way too many games. We don't care if you will go win 2 games in Nashville. Your bet is made, and you did that with losses in 8 of your last 10 games or whatever.
Course, yeah.
But there's no way of knowing that, and so now we can only look at Auburn as a team that is out of the field right now. I mean, there's no way this is a tournament team at the moment.
Currently.
But what can change between now and Selection Sunday? Things can change around you, number one, like you were just saying. And honestly, people don't want to hear this right now, but all those bubble teams losing today is good for Auburn. It can only be good. It can only help you out to potentially bounce those teams from the bubble conversation. And then you have to do as much as you can. Obviously, a win over Mississippi State, it feels like if you don't get that one, it doesn't feel like if you don't get that one, we're not even talking about this at all. And then Tennessee, that feels like another opportunity for this team because that would be a quad 1 game. The committee has said things before about the bracket being set around Friday. That's a Thursday game, so like maybe would be enough time to sneak in another quad 1 win if the bubble margins are razor thin between teams. And so we'll have to see. It's another opportunity now for this team. Maybe is not dead just yet, but if they're still hanging on, Patrick, they are hanging on
by a single
thread and for dear life. And you obviously maybe you weren't expected to win this game here today. I don't really think there was anything overly surprising about this one. But at the end of the day, your defense just hasn't figured it out all season, and it led to way too many easy opportunities for Alabama.
And I think that's the thing I keep coming back to is I'm like, you look at a lot of the stats, and it's like, it's kind of what you thought. Like, Auburn will lose by 10 plus, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you watch the game,
it
was a different story.
Yeah, there has to be context. And I think as well, the simple fact that it's Alabama, it's always going to feel bad.
Of course.
The heightened feelings that people may have about Stephen Pearl or about this season just being completely awash and done for at this point. I think, and probably most Auburn fans would agree, those are heightened a little bit because it's Alabama, because you lost on the road, because they were able to just have a jubilant night here while you looked like a team that is nowhere near ready to play in the NCAA tournament. And so maybe a little bit of a different story if you lost at Texas A&M or something, and it's like, okay, well, that doesn't really matter to anybody. You go lose by double digits to them. And so obviously never a great feeling for Auburn to lose to Alabama. They've now lost 3 straight in the series overall.
Alabama's won 6 of the last 8 as well.
6 of the last 8. Okay, yeah. So for all the success Bruce Pearl was able to have against this team, went downhill a little bit. The 1 versus 2 game here last year is sort of the shining achievement for Auburn's side of the rivalry right now. But Nate Oates and Alabama have had control over it really for the better part of the last 3 years. And so 96-84, head over to auburnundercover.com. Me and Patrick will be in Nashville on Tuesday. So the team will practice on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. We'll talk to everybody. Patrick will have practice footage and everything like that. And so get ramped up. You'll hear from Auburn players, hear from Josh Hubbard and Mississippi State players as they're getting ready to rematch. The Tigers get to talk to them in Nashville. And so it's time for postseason basketball, everybody. I know this team has limped to the finish line is an understatement. They have barely even made it to the finish line with dragging their entire body by one arm. But somehow we are still having this NCAA tournament conversation, and I don't think it's completely invalid. I think there is a little bit of merit to it. Maybe they're not to the level that Stephen Pearl says they are, where they deserve to be in. Maybe they don't.
But I'm also like, and everyone was kind of like,
everyone grown people, but it's also like, what do you expect?
It's the head coach of the team. Surely he's going to campaign for it. Like, what coach is going to walk in and be like, yeah, we don't deserve it. Take us out.
Some could, but I for one was going to be stunned if we didn't hear that from Stephen after this game, and so should be interesting that this team continues to have an opportunity here to play in the NCAA tournament, and it's going to start. That opportunity is going to start in Nashville as they'll look. Stephen said after the game, making a run in Nashville would make a really big difference. But obviously, a lot of teams would love to make a run in Nashville, and so Auburn's going to have a lot of competition there. So for Patrick Bingham, I am Nathan King. Head over to auburnundercover.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Postgame Pod, and we will talk to you all soon.